Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. Today is Monday, September 18th. We're very happy to be with you here today to give you an update of some of the issues of what's happening around Westchester County. I'll be joined in a couple of minutes by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, who will help me deliver some of the information that we want to share with you today. And I want to start right off at the top with a very special guest. We're joined today by our neighbor to the south, the Borough President of the Borough of the Bronx, Vanessa Gibson. Vanessa and I served together in the New York State Assembly during her 4-year tenure there. She went on to serve 8 years on the New York City Council before becoming Bronx Borough President, elected in November of 21 and taking office January of 2022. She is the next in a line of very dynamic leaders in the Bronx that we've had the chance to work with. And Westchester and the Bronx are very much tied together. There was a time before the creation of the city of New York where Westchester and Bronx were in fact one county. That's why you have White Plains Road and Eastchester Road and Pelham Parkway in the Bronx, and you also have those very same jurisdictions here across the dotted line. We're linked by our transportation routes that take us in and out of the city, the highways and the mass transit routes, and we've worked together very closely with the Bronx in trying to get access from the eastern side of the Bronx and the eastern side of our county into Penn Station, which would be a really tremendous ability to bring mass transit to areas that have not had it before. We work together on tourism because there's so many things that are attractive in the Bronx right below the border of Westchester, and then right above the border in Westchester we have MGM Grand and Yonkers and other things that really represent an economic development for the area. I'm fond of saying that I went to college in the Bronx. My first full-time job was in the Bronx, and my first girlfriend was in the Bronx. That didn't work out, but the other things were very important to me, and I think Westchester's future is very much tied to the Bronx, which is why we want to work closely with the Bronx leadership and have the best possible cooperative relationship that we can. We can prove that the city and the suburbs can work together. And with a leader like Vanessa Gibson, we have a friend who's done a great job for her borough, and we look forward to working with her in the future, and I look forward to bringing her to the microphones. So may I introduce the Bronx Borough President, the Honorable Vanessa Gibson. Madam President, I like calling you that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Westchester is anxious to hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Westchester. I am excited to be here for the Westchester Weekly. Certainly, I want to acknowledge my good friend, someone who I've known for years, serving as an elected official in the Bronx, our County Executive of Westchester County, George Latimer, our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. Thank you so much. And I am proud to say, Westchester County, you have phenomenal leadership in this great county. And as George has said, there is so much alignment between Bronx County and Westchester County. And during my 4-year tenure in the New York State Assembly, George Latimer, as an assembly member at that time, was a good friend. We stood together on many priorities, such as affordable housing and pathways to home ownership, supporting our young people with pathways to college and careers, and so many issues that are very prevalent here across our great state. So it really is an honor to come along the highway to be here in Westchester County to really provide all of you an overview of what we are doing serving the 1.5 million residents that live in the Bronx County. I am the 14th Bronx Borough President. I am the first African American and the first female to ever serve in this role. It is a tremendous honor stepping into this new leadership role for such a time as this. My Deputy Borough President, Janet Peguero, is also a first. She is the first Latina, the first Dominicana, and the first immigrant to serve ever as Deputy Borough President. And together, Deputy Borough President Peguero and I are proud to lead Bronx County. In the city of New York, 5 boroughs, we are the only borough that is led by 2 women. And I truly believe that it is happening not by design, but on purpose. And every day we wake up on purpose, with a purpose, realizing that it is our time to show the residents and families of Bronx County what they rightfully deserve. We believe that the Bronx is a borough of opportunities. It is a global destination. From our historic landmarks and open spaces, we are the greenest borough in the city of New York with Pelham Bay Park. Whether you are at Orchard Beach, which is our Riviera, you go to Little Italy or City Island, you partake in all of our restaurants and eateries. We are a borough that is thriving and striving, and every day we're striving to make sure that we invest in our great borough. So a few priorities that we have as an administration today, I want to begin by talking about economic development, because I believe that economic development is the pathway to prosperity. I believe that when you set up a family with a job, with a career, you are setting them up for life. We are proud to have incredible leadership running our economic development team. The Bronx EDC is led by Rob Walsh, who is the former SBS commissioner under former Mayor Michael Bloomberg. He and his team at BX EDC are tapping into money that has never been spent before. A few weeks ago, I joined our local congressman, Richie Torres, and BX EDC, and we announced a historic $10 million Bronx Community Fund Development Program. And this $10 million was approved by the New York Empowerment Zone, also approved by the U.S. SBA Small Business Administration. This $10 million that we identified was through Empowerment Zone money that began with the Bill Clinton administration from 1994. You heard it right, 1994. This money has never been spent. So the New York Empowerment Authority gave us the approval to actually dispense $10 million in small business loans focused in the South Bronx area of Port Morris and Mott Haven, Bronx Community Board 1 and 2. And we're going to give out loans anywhere from $5,000 to $350,000 for many of our businesses. Because if we are to say that small businesses are the economic engine, the fabric and the foundation of our communities, then we have to do more to support them. And during the height of COVID-19, it was the small businesses that kept their doors open, that kept people employed, that provided the opportunities. So they have had our backs during the greatest time of need, and now it's time for us to have theirs. So we're excited about this $10 million. And now I know you may be thinking, not every small business has the ability to pay back a loan. But we got something good for you, because we are also actively working on grant opportunities for many of our small businesses. We will not leave them behind. We will allow them to strive and thrive, provide the local jobs, stimulate the economy, and make sure that we keep our borough operating. And in addition, economic development cannot happen without employment opportunities. And during the pandemic, Bronx County had an unemployment rate of 25.6%. Many of our hotel, retail industries were decimated, and many of our residents were no longer able to work and applied for unemployment. I'm proud to say that now we are at a 6% unemployment rate, and we're working closely with the New York State Department of Labor, the Commissioner Roberta Reardon and her team, and we are actively hosting job fairs in the Bronx all throughout our county to make sure that we connect young adults, those that are justice involved, that may have been incarcerated, and we give them opportunities. We open doors so they can have the career pathways that they rightfully deserve. That is something that is very important to me, because I truly believe that the way to transform our communities is through jobs and economic development. So the BX EDC is doing amazing work under the leadership of President Walsh, and also our BICNY, which is the Business Initiative Corporation of New York, led by Rafael Roger. He and his team are doing fantastic work, giving out loans, helping small businesses that need access to capital, building generational wealth, helping them with financial mastery and other support programs and technical assistance that many of our small businesses need. The third leg of the small business arm in our office is the Bronx Tourism Council. And its website is www.ilovethebronx.com. The easiest website you'll ever have, ilovethebronx.com. And it is led by Sulma Arzu Brown. She is also a first. She's the first Afro-Latina, the first Garifuna woman from Honduras. She was an immigrant that came here from Honduras with her family and migrated right in the Bronx. She's an entrepreneur, she's an illustrator, she's a business owner, and she's leading our Bronx Tourism Council. Signature events that we have hosted in our tenure: Bronx Week, as well as Bronx Restaurant Week and Tour de Bronx. Bronx Week is phenomenal. It's held every May, and we support Bronx businesses, and we talk about everything good happening in our borough, from our small businesses, veterans, educators, first responders, so many of our incredible public servants, healthcare workers, heroes and sheroes, and we have a week-long event. But because we're the Bronx, it's not just a 7-day week. It is an 11-day week, because we believe that the Bronx is the best place to live, work, and raise our families, and we want to do more to make it even better. That is my job every day, to make sure that Bronx County is better than the way I got it on January 1st, 2022. October is the month in which we hold Tour de Bronx. It's the largest free cycling event across the city of New York, and we had last year thousands of cyclists. Even if you're a beginner like me, I have not rode a bike in years, and I got to learn again. Many of you were in that stage as well, or you could be intermediate, or you could be an advanced bike rider. But it's a part of our work to address health disparities and focus on health and wellness, so that we are encouraging cyclists and we're encouraging people to be a part of that. So that event, Tour de Bronx 2023, will be held on Sunday, October 22nd, in our borough in the Bronx at 10 a.m. and we're starting on the Grand Concourse and 161st Street. For more information, again, visit the website, ilovethebronx.com. Now, moving on to some of our other capital projects, because as I said, we are a borough of opportunities. There are a number of significant capital projects that are really going to transform our county, but the entire city and state of New York. And a project that both your county executive and I share is Metro North expansion. Metro North expansion in the East Bronx with access to Penn Station. 4 new stations are coming to the Bronx. $2.7 billion union jobs, starting in the Co-op City community in the Northeast Bronx, then going to Morris Park in the East Bronx, then to Parkchester Van Ness in the East Bronx, and then we head south to Hunts Point. These 4 new stations are going to be a game changer for the Bronx. And 2 stations in particular are going to provide a rezoning which will add to the density within those communities in adding more housing, supporting small businesses, boosting tourism, and really providing support for commuters in Westchester and the Bronx with easier access to Penn Station, reducing our carbon footprint, getting commuters out of cars and on the Metro North. So we have already started on working groups with all 4 communities, the Business Improvement District, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, all the elected officials that represent these neighborhoods, and we are actively supporting the Metro North expansion. If you understand that this work is about transportation equity and transportation justice, we want to make mass transit accessible to everyone, regardless of how much you have in your bank account. We want to connect commuters to Manhattan and Westchester and points north and make sure that it is accessible, it is affordable, and it is convenient right in your own neighborhood. So I am excited about the Metro North expansion, and I look forward to the day in 2027 when we officially open our 4 new Metro North stations with access to Penn Station. In addition, going to the West Bronx, I want to call your attention to this amazing project called Reimagining the Kingsbridge Armory. For many of you, you may know the Kingsbridge Armory is the largest armory in the nation. It is 3 times the size of the Bedford Union Armory in Brooklyn in Kings County. And this armory has unfortunately been vacant for 50 years. Originally a military base, and during the pandemic, a site for food distribution and booster and vaccination shots and other health-related issues, but we had no plan. There were 2 proposals put forth years ago by previous administrations, and unfortunately they did not pass. But now, 3rd time is the charm. And because of the new leadership, the first female Bronx Borough president and a female local council member, Pierina Sanchez, and all of the elected officials, and our great governor, another female, Kathy Hochul, we are all invested in transforming the Kingsbridge Armory. The vision we have put forth is one of community engagement, supporting small businesses, economic development, vertical farming, looking at food access, healthcare related services, recreation, potentially the home of salsa, a new new museum dedicated to salsa. We have so much space and opportunity, but most importantly, we want the residents of Kingsbridge to feel good about their neighborhood, to be proud of where they live, work, and raise their families. And for years, they have seen this big armory lie vacant for all these generations. We are no longer going to be first in everything bad and last in everything good when it comes to Bronx County. We're going to set families and businesses up for success and not failure. The Kingsbridge Armory, over the last 9 months, we put together a working group called Together Kingsbridge, working with the New York City Economic Development Corporation and a myriad of stakeholders from colleges, healthcare partners, elected officials, non-for-profits, clergy, and faith leaders. And over 9 months, we had working groups, advisory boards, community meetings, draft sessions, and I'm so proud to say after 9 months, we got 4,000 ideas, 4,000. And we put it together in a report that was recently released earlier this month that is entitled Together Kingsbridge, because we believe in the vision of Kingsbridge. We believe that we deserve better. And I'm excited about what lies ahead. Over the next several months, we will be working with developers as an RFP is administered to get proposals. And once that process commences, we will be able to announce an award winner through the city, and then we will begin to get to a plan. I am so thankful to Governor Hochul for committing $100 million, to Mayor Eric Adams in the city of New York for also committing $100 million, Councilmember Sanchez, who was able to allocate $12 million. So the money is coming in. All we need to make sure is we execute the plan that we truly come up with. I want to call your attention to healthcare, because I believe as a county that we can do more to address the challenges that so many of our residents face around accessing primary care and mental health services and wraparound services. The Bronx is unfortunately a borough that has a lot of need. We have some of the highest rates of asthma, heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. And we also have one of the highest rates of infant mortality and maternal mortality and morbidity. As your Bronx Borough President, I am dedicated to this work. I have a maternal healthcare consortium that works with a number of doulas and midwives and birth workers out of many of our hospitals, including Montefiore, Albert Einstein, and public hospitals like Lincoln, North Central, and Jacoby. And we've been working relentlessly for the year and 9 months of being in office to put together a plan on what a birthing center looks like. Patient-centered care that is culturally sensitive and language diverse, that meets clients where they are. Black women are 9 times more likely than their sisters to die of childbirth-related complications while they are giving birth. Giving birth should be the greatest blessing, and you should not have to lose your life over that. So we believe that the answer is a birthing center, and we're going to be issuing a birthing report very soon that will talk about our plan. And in addition to maternal health, you all understand HIV/AIDS rates are very, very high in the Black and brown community. We have an HIV/AIDS roundtable. We have a roundtable dedicated to diabetes. We're also talking about fibroids and lupus and so many health-related issues that are preventable that have really exacerbated many of our women and women of color in our county. So we're going to be working very closely on that as well. If I go to the South Bronx, you know we represent the Hunts Point Produce Market right in the South Bronx. And this is one of the largest markets we represent in the city of New York. Thousands of men and women representing Teamsters show up every day to provide produce for 70% of our restaurants, supermarkets, grocery stores, and bodegas in the Bronx and the city of New York. We have a plan to add 1,000 new jobs to transform the entire produce market, working with New York City EDC. We're going to make all of our trucks electric, which is important, reducing our carbon footprint. And we're going to make sure we have modernized refrigeration plants and everything that you know you deserve in a market such as Hunts Point. So that plan, we've been able to work with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and members of Congress in the New York delegation. $400 million already dedicated to the Hunts Point produce market. So I'm very, very proud of that. Signature projects for our borough that we have taken on from our predecessor, number 13, Ruben Diaz Jr. You all know the Bronx is the birthplace of hip hop. It is the 50th anniversary of hip hop, started on August 11, 1973, because we realized that hip hop has been a global empire, a multi-billion-dollar industry that started in the Bronx. We are solidifying that by the creation and construction of the first ever Universal Hip Hop Museum in the West Bronx, called Bronx Point, coupled with 600 units of affordable housing and an early child care center. We are not playing when it comes to development in Bronx County. We will not leave residents behind. We will not break promises, but rather we serve with commitment, consistency, compassion, dedication, and intention. We believe in public and private partnerships. All of the developers that we work with that align with our values, that support union wages, local jobs, MWBE provisions, supporting those who have often been forgotten and not had these opportunities. The Universal Hip Hop Museum is going to be a global destination, an incredible visitors institution, and the preservation of hip hop, and we are so very proud of that. We in Bronx County truly believe that we are on the cusp of a new renaissance, and there is nothing impossible for us to do. New leadership is here, we're getting things done, and we want to make sure that we're working closely with our colleagues in Westchester County because we share so much together. I thank you all for watching. I hope that you are excited about what is happening in your neighboring county of Bronx, and I want to say thank you again to your county executive, George Latimer, and Ken Jenkins for their leadership and inviting us here to be on this show to give our updates on behalf of the great borough of the Bronx in the city of New York. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Outstanding job, Madam President. That is Vanessa Gibson, the Bronx Borough President, a good friend, and she just gave you the state of the borough message in terms of the Bronx. And what this does, Vanessa, that justifies it. My dad lived in Brooklyn before moving up to Westchester County after World War II. Since I did go to college in the Bronx and spent a lot of time in the Bronx, I used to have arguments with him. You never win arguments with your father, I learned. But how much better the Bronx was than Brooklyn. I wish he was alive today because I would tape this and make sure that he saw exactly what's happening in the Bronx. No knock on Brooklyn, but we're next door to the Bronx, so a little partial to the Bronx. And thank you for being with us today. It's an outstanding report. I point out, which I think most of us know, is that we do share so many things in common. Our B-Line bus system goes over the border and connects into the Bronx to subways in the northern part of the Bronx. We share 2 state Senate districts and a congressional district with the Bronx. We're very happy that State Senators Jamal Bailey and Natalia Fernandez, Congressman Jamal Bowman represent both of our 2 boroughs, and we look forward to working together in the future on so many initiatives. Thank you for being with us here today. Vanessa Gibson, Borough President of the Bronx. I'm going to ask Ken Jenkins to join me now. We have some other topics that we want to talk about in Westchester. I know you're ginned up on the Bronx, but this is Westchester that we're here to tell you about as well as part of these things. Changing the mood very quickly to one that's much more somber. Over the course of the last 24, 36 hours, we saw an effort that was made with threats made to various synagogues and a couple of other institutions in Westchester County. They were made online, and they threatened that there were bombs that were prepared to go off at some of the local synagogues and at the county airport. There's some other institutions as well. Our Westchester County Department of Public Safety did yeoman's work in investigating those claims. Additional resources were put into effect to verify that they were not ultimately credible threats, but we took them as credible threats at the time that they were made. This happened yesterday morning. We know that this is the beginning of the High Holy Days for our Jewish brothers and sisters, Rosh Hashanah, and then now heading to Yom Kippur sometime over the course of the next few days. And this is a very sensitive time for the Jewish community. And when acts like this occur, whether they reflect anti-Semitism or some other type of miscreant behavior designed just to make people run around and be upset and concerned, we take it credibly, and we were able to research each of those threats. I want to thank Terrence Rayner, who's the Commissioner of our Department of Public Safety, Jim Luciano, who's Chief Inspector for the Department of Public Safety, and all the wonderful men and women of the department for responding so thoroughly and so quickly in this area. There are ongoing investigations relative to this incident. The FBI is involved, and so any other announcements as what the results of the investigation will uncover will be dealt with by the proper investigative authorities as we go forward. But it's important to know that we take it seriously. We make sure that our professionals are at work. We have a bomb squad out there and with both of our dogs and our professionals to sniff out any incident like that, so that you have a sense of comfort that we're there and ready to respond on an immediate basis. And this is particularly true, again, at the moment, to our Jewish brothers and sisters during this period of time where they are celebrating the High Holy Days. And we extend this protection and support to all of our friends in all of the different religions. One of the bedrocks of America is that you have the right to worship the religion as you see fit, and that every one of those religions should be able to be practiced in peace and within the confines of those who believe. And so we did step up over the weekend, and we thank again our Department of Public Safety for their work, and I might add all of the local police departments as well. Our major cities, villages, towns all have their police departments as well, working in harmony with the county and other investigative agencies, and we were able to outline the threat and address it. We have another threat that we've been living with for 3.5 years. We have not been reporting on COVID over the last 6 months, 8 months, because the incidence of it has been reduced within the society. But nonetheless, we're still very diligent in keeping an eye on things. And there is some information now about a new COVID shot that is at hand. And Ken Jenkins will get us up to date on the COVID situation for today.
Thanks, George. Certainly, it's that opportunity. We saw a lot of increases in COVID instances over the last few weeks. So an updated monovalent COVID shot targeting the Omicron XBB.1.5 variant has been approved for use and is recommended for everyone 6 months or older to protect against serious illness. At this time, the bivalent COVID shots have been discontinued, and the county health department is preparing to offer the updated monovalent COVID shot at our vaccination clinics. This is very important, so everyone should please be advised that we will no longer be able to offer COVID vaccine to everyone interested in receiving it at our health department clinics. We're shifting back to our safety net role, so COVID vaccines will only be available for children under the Eligible for the Children for Vaccines for Children's program, and those adults who are not insured or are underinsured through the Bridge Access program at our clinics. So again, to be able to make sure that you're eligible for those vaccinations that are being happening at the health department clinics, please call 914-995-5800. And again, as opposed to the walk-ins that we had during the COVID crisis, this vaccination for the population will only be available by appointment. So once again, call in 914-995-5800. If you have health insurance, so those with health insurance will be able to receive their COVID vaccine at places where they would normally go to get their vaccines, such as pharmacies and medical provided offices. Use the Vaccine Finder tool to schedule a COVID vaccine near you. Again, we're getting ready to have that time because flu vaccines are going to come up. To George and I's favorite time of the year where we get shot online to be able to do our vaccinations for flu shots. So again, very important for those folks that are 6 months and older. It's a new version of the COVID vaccination that's targeting those variants that are available, that are happening right now. So again, schedule those and get those shots in the arm to make sure that you protect yourself against serious illness. Back to you, George.
Thank you, Ken. Dr. Charlena Amler, who's our Commissioner of Health, has plans for both of these two arms. Sometime in the next 20 days or so, we will be getting both our flu shot and our COVID shot at the same time. That's what we did last year, and it protected us well. October is a very good month to do that as we go into the winter months. We know that there is some higher incidence of COVID that comes when we are indoors and we're in closer contact with each other. But the same protocol still exists as it existed during the heart of the pandemic, which is you should isolate for 5 days, test, and make sure before you go back out. And then on the 6th day, if you have no symptoms, you go back out with a mask and properly protected so that you reduce any opportunity for spread. Ken's point is worth repeating again. If you have a local medical professional, local doctor, if you work through a local pharmacy, those are the people you should touch base about getting the new COVID shot from. If you need to have assistance that the county health clinics provide in White Plains and in Yonkers, we're happy to do that for that audience that it addresses. There are also local neighborhood health centers across our region: Mount Vernon, Greenberg, Sleepy Hollow, Peekskill, Ossining, Portchester, Mamaroneck. In all of those local neighborhood health centers, individuals can call and find out when those shots may be available and try to transact as is necessary. We had a good result from COVID once we got vaccinations available to us early in 2021. Our percentage of vaccinations were pretty high. It was not universal. We did not mandate them, but it dropped the amount of COVID infection dramatically, so much to the point that it was at one point the central organizing reality of our lives, and now it is a disease that we have to take seriously, but we can still function and have our interactions with each other as we did pre-COVID almost 4 years ago. It's hard to imagine how much time has gone by. Let me give you an update on where we are with migrant placements. As you know, I repeat the story all the time. There are migrants that have been placed around New York City and outside of New York City. The Adams administration has contracted directly with certain local hotels or motels, not just in Westchester, but in other parts of the state. There are 3 locations in Westchester County that have accepted migrants, one in Yonkers, one in Ardsley, one in White Plains. In the aggregate, there are 147 rooms that have been set aside for this purpose, and the last head count gave us 401 individuals who are migrants who are housed here in those 3 locations. We have had no incidents of crime in any of these locations. It's now approaching 4 months in Yonkers, 3 months in the other 2 locations. No incidents of crime, no incidents of spread of disease. And those are the 2 most important situations. The City of New York does provide funding to the hotels for the overnight accommodations and basic meals. There's much about that that's happening, but the philanthropy of many organizations, not-for-profit organizations, have supplemented those efforts, and we recognize in the Ardsley, the Yonkers, and the White Plains community, and in the greater community at large, those individuals have stepped forward to be helpful in other ways to provide some ancillary programs and benefits for them. This issue is a federal issue. How we handle immigration, it is not at the doorstep of the city, the county, the town, or the village to resolve. We have called upon expedited work permits. We've called upon the establishment of a satellite immigration court at our U.S. District Courthouse here in White Plains. As of yet, we have not gotten satisfactory benefit on either of those 2 requests, but we continue to make those requests, and we continue to manage the issue as well as we can. This is not a sanctuary county. This is not welcoming. This is doing our humanitarian best to help people in need as they have been presented by the City of New York through their independent authority to do so. I would remind people, as I do every time, we have been through this before. In 2018, the Donald Trump administration placed 1,000 migrant children in Westchester County in 4 different locations. It took about a year for them to be here before they were relocated out, but that was 1,000. We're at 400 now, so there's a big difference in terms of the volume. We managed it well then. We're doing everything we can to manage it well in this case. And it's very important because the rhetoric in the community goes much beyond the actual reality of things. There are people who, because of their philosophy, do not believe that those coming from the south border should be here at all. Those that have come in legally. They've gone to immigration officials. They have been given court dates and cases for asylum treatment, and they are allowed to stay in the United States pending those court cases being adjudicated. It was the decision of the governor of Texas to put them on buses and send them to New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, wherever they decided to do it. That was not a universal distribution around the country. He targeted the communities that he wants, which is why we see them at our doorstep. I might remind you that back in the 1800s, most of the immigrants that came into this country came by boat, and they came into the New York metropolitan area. We did not put them on horseback to put them into Texas. But we deal with the world as it is, and trying to deal with it, we deal with it. No crime, no disease, and a humanitarian response that we think is appropriate. We will try to manage this, and we hope that the federal government will be able to resolve this with some bipartisan support, which is what's needed. Without that bipartisan support, we will be in this continual status quo for some length of time. Next, we have a program at the airport. Ken will cover it. This is a pre-check program for those going through the TSA security process, and it's important if you travel frequently, if you can apply through this process, this will speed the plow when you go through security at the appropriate time. Ken.
Thanks, George. So TSA pre-check enrollment is back, and it's back for a limited period of time here in Westchester. So at the Westchester County Airport, from today through Friday, September 22nd, from 9 a.m. to noon and 1 to 5 every day, you'll be able to enroll at the terminal's arrivals near the baggage claim at Westchester County Airport. In-person enrollment requires that applicants provide proof of identity, proof of citizenship, fingerprints, and a photo. This enrollment process is quick, convenient, and even faster when you pre-register online. So pre-register online at the TSA website. This saves time at the airport, reduces stress while traveling, and anything you could do to reduce stress while you're going through airports is absolutely helpful. And it takes advantage, for you, you should take advantage of this limited time enrollment opportunity located centrally right at the Westchester County Airport, and that's happening this week only. They are taking walkthroughs as well, but it's best to go online ahead of time, register, do your application, and do everything as quickly as possible online, so that when you get there, you can get through as quickly as possible. Make sure enrollment is as easy as possible. And again, this is at your Westchester County Airport. TSA pre-check is back.
Thank you again, Ken. So we'll try to wrap up some of this information. We have a host of different activities happening at a number of our parks. This Friday, we have a very somber ceremony. It is Gold Star Mother's Day, and we will be commemorating and honoring our Gold Star mothers at Kensico Dam Plaza in Valhalla from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This is a day of recognition for those women who have lost a son or a daughter in service in the military. It is a very difficult thing to lose a child under any circumstances, and certainly when they have given themselves over to the United States government to do that which protects our interests, it is even more tragic. So we will be there to honor those women who have lost their children, as we do each year. That's coming up this Friday. You're welcome to attend 3 to 4:30 at Kensico Dam Plaza. We have on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. a Saxon Woods garage sale. No, we're not selling garages. We have open the garage and we sell whatever's in it. And in this particular case, individuals and families sell their unwanted, gently used household items and treasures. There is a rain date the following day on Sunday, but it's scheduled for Saturday in the parking lot at Saxon Woods. On Sunday, September 24th, from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., we have a Westchester car show in Glen Island Park in New Rochelle. That's our Riviera, sitting just north of the Orchard Beach Riviera in the Bronx. Registrations from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's an awards ceremony at 2:30. I happen to be an old car buff. I don't own any of them, but I've always admired them, watching them as a young kid, and now that the years go even further, you see cars that date back a number of years. It's really a fun thing to do. So we encourage you to come and look out for that, the Westchester Car Show at Glen Island Park. Bicycle Sundays have returned for the fall season. We'll be riding bicycles this Sunday on the Bronx River Parkway, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and this Sunday coming up will be the 24th. We'll go the following week, which is the 1st of October, before the program completes. We get over 60,000 participants a year. It's a 13.1-mile loop. You can bike all of it, some of it with a friend, by yourself. It's a family outing, and it's a lot of fun. You can skate it, by the way. You could jog. You can ride. But we close traffic on the Bronx River Parkway from the Scarsdale Avenue exit in Yonkers up to the County Center in White Plains. Make a note, drivers, once again, 10 to 2, Bronx River Parkway closed on the next 2 Sundays. We also have a Parks E-Club weekly newsletter. If you sign up for that, you don't have to listen to our reports. You can get all the information you need on the parks and be just as happy and turn the sound down and not listen to us. But it tells you all the different promotional efforts we have. And then very briefly, just to wrap up, we're very happy that we could suspend our bus fares on the Beeline bus system during the summer. That ended on Labor Day. We had it for July, August, and Labor Day weekend. Second straight year we've done that. but we're discussing now whether or not we can do that over the holiday season. This is an expense to the county because we forego the fare box. People don't pay to ride the bus, but we still have to run the system. We still have to pay the drivers and the maintenance on the buses. They're all electric or electric hybrid buses now. When they come into Vanessa's County, and that little piece that goes into 233rd Street or down to West 242nd Street is electric buses coming in and out. But nonetheless, by foregoing that revenue, we have to pick up the revenue elsewhere, and we're hopeful we can do it again in the holiday seasons. We'll make an announcement about it probably sometime in the month of October. We also want to highlight that we're following up the state's initial layout of the Environmental Bond Act program process. They had a meeting in August, regional meeting here at the Westchester County Center. We'll be holding a Westchester meeting. We're going to invite advocate groups and local governments to attend so we can help guide folks in how to put together applications for environmental programs benefiting from this $4.2 billion fund that was made available. The voters of the Bronx and Westchester both voted strongly for this allocation of money. It is now there, and we can tap into it for the right kinds of projects. And I might add that it was structured so that 30% of the projects must be environmental justice projects. So we're certainly looking with our municipalities, Yonkers, New Rochelle, wherever we have a concentration of poor people, people of color, to try to determine what can we do that will improve the environment in their backyards, something that can reduce air pollution, reduce asthma rates. Then those are the kind of projects, amongst others, that we're looking for, and that's coming up. And then finally, the budget process for the county is a calendar year fiscal year. We begin our new budget year January 1st, the same way that we begin our calendar year. So during the fall now, we start to make final preparations and present the proposed budget for 2024. In the middle of October, a little less than a month from now, we will present the capital budget proposal. These are the major improvements that we will make physically to the physical plant, whether it's road improvements, things in our sewer treatment plants or in our parks or in any of our buildings. That will be released to the Board of Legislators and released publicly for public scrutiny in the middle of the month of October. That is one of a number of the pieces of the county budget that is adopted when we get to November, December. In November, I think November 10th is the target date that we have every year, we will release the operating budget. That's the one where you find out how much money we're spending on a host of different departments. We'll assess what our proposed tax rate will be. For the last 4 years, we have cut county property taxes, which is pretty amazing considering all the other things that we've done. It may seem a little counterintuitive based on people's assessment of what they think we were going to do, but we've cut property taxes 4 years in a row, even as we've done these initiatives. The borough president talked about needs for maternal health care for those minority. We've invested money in that very project, working with Hospital in Yonkers, where we know that that is a priority for us. We've done programs like that and others. That's what will be outlined in the budget when we release it in November. There will be some public forums that will happen prior to the release of the budget that we will conduct, and then the Board of Legislators will have a full public review of the budget. That happens from mid-November into the early part of December, and assuming all things line up properly, then the Board of Legislators will make some changes to the budget. We'll discuss and try to come to conclusion on it and have everything done by the middle of December. Vanessa and I served in the legislature when that happened sometimes later than we wanted it to happen. We didn't get paid in those days, but we have in our county never failed to have an on-time budget. We intend to have an on-time budget, and we hope that it will be a budget that we can not only live with, but that we can grow and prosper with. And it's very important for us as Westchester to do the things we're tasked with doing, but also to work cooperatively with the City of New York, the Borough of the Bronx, and all of the boroughs, with our neighbors in the Hudson Valley, that Rockland and Putnam and Dutchess and Orange County of ours, we share a common fate as well. I had the good pleasure of serving not only with Vanessa in the State Assembly, but we had as a colleague at the time Hakeem Jeffries, Grace Meng, who's a United States Congresswoman as well. Hakeem Jeffries is the minority leader of the House of Representatives. Grace Meng is a member of Congress. Also, Paul Tonko was a member of the New York State Assembly before he joined us in that capacity. Adriano Espaillat, who served as an assemblyman, a senator, and is now a congressman, were colleagues of ours. And then some of the people we served with, like Shelley Mayer, won from the Assembly on to the State Senate, and there are others. So there is more than just one person at one point in time doing one thing. This has to be a cooperative effort across the lines. We have heard a lot and generally from the media driven about how the city sits at counterpoint with the suburbs. We understand that's a perception. Sometimes it's a perception that's a misperception. For people who live in Westchester County, when we look at the 5 boroughs of New York City, we know that the Bronx is not exactly like Queens and that Brooklyn is not exactly like Manhattan. And many times people who live in the city need to see that Westchester is not exactly like Nassau or Suffolk or Rockland or Dutchess. We're each individuals. But even as individuals, we can work together. And in the final analysis, our futures are intertwined. The Bronx, Westchester, Rockland, Dutchess, Bronx, Manhattan, Oswego, Otsego, Owego, all of these places that we may not know exactly where they are, we're all intertwined together, and with New Jersey and Connecticut. This is not a state, this is the United States of America. I'm George Latimer. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.